Ferris here. Welcome to our Startup with Ferris live stream. Thank you for tuning in. This past year, I've spent countless of hours speaking with dozens of business owners, new business owners, and those who are aspiring to be founders. And while I was impressed with their solid domain knowledge, their commitment to the business, their grit, their creativity, there was one common thread that always gets me worried. And it is the level of unpreparedness, or the level of that lack of or minimal amount of business planning that they end up putting into the business. So everybody's excited about starting a business. They're passionate about it. They have a level of expertise in their sector or in their line of business. And again, this is not for everyone. Some folks did really well in terms of business planning, and they've crossed all the T's and dotted all the I's. But a lot of the folks I spoke with, they want to iterate on the go, which is something I would say to go as an entrepreneur. But some baseline of business planning is really key. So the idea here is, we all know this saying, or most of us know this saying, failing to plan is planning to fail. And from my observations, those business owners who paused, reflected, thought about, analyzed what happened, and maybe course corrected when it was needed, they had a higher likelihood of really achieving what they were set out to do. So what we want to do is, I want to dedicate this week's live stream and next week's live stream to go over not a corporate framework for business planning, or something that's going to take you weeks and weeks. It will take you some time, but I want to give you some a practical approach, a simplified approach to plan for your business. Reflect on what happened last year, assess the strength, the weaknesses, and look for opportunities, and then take this reflection, the assessment of what happened, and put it into actions going into next year. Now, whether you've started and you have maybe a few team members now, and you have maybe some contractors and some freelancers, and you have a team, or whether you're just by yourself, or whether you're just still thinking about starting, I think a lot of the principles, a lot of what I'm covering today will be applicable to you. And before we dive into planning and reflection and assessing and analyzing and helping you grow the business, a few housekeeping items. Number one, if you have submitted your question to us last week, we will be answering those questions throughout the live stream. And if you would like to submit a question now, or if you're listening to this podcast or watching this video later, you can leave us a comment or go to the link in the description and submit your question. And for those who are watching now or listening now or later, I'd love to hear from you. Leave me a comment on the video, or go to startupwithferris.com. Let me know about your struggles, your small and big wins, the issues you're struggling with. If you're not sure how to just take that leap, you're not sure about taking that first step towards starting a business, or you're really struggling with planning for next year and you're not sure how to put it all together, I'd be more than happy to help you and support you there. We offer no charge, no gimmicks, a 30-minute session. I have a couple of sessions every week that I dedicate at no cost, no charge to anyone, to just help founders and aspiring founders to succeed. A lot of folks helped me along the way in all my ventures and when I was struggling, and that's my way of paying it forward. So that is, and one last thing, we do have this live stream every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. So make sure you dial in and submit a question. Submit your questions ahead of time. We'll answer them in these live streams. And next week's topic, as I mentioned, it's about the second part of business planning. We'll cover 3 areas today. We'll talk about revenue, we'll talk about risk, and we'll talk about strengths and weaknesses. And next week, we'll talk about some external factors, the market, the competition, and also in terms of delivery with clients and some personal considerations. So make sure you dial in on Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. Now, back to business planning, back to growth. There are a lot of statistics out there about those who plan are 30% more likely to succeed, or 70% more likely to survive the first 5 years. If you have a strategic plan, if you do your yearly planning, a lot of statistics out there. I don't have to convince you. I think we all know the importance. I think the hard part is putting this into action. So what I want to do today is as I said, give you this simplified approach, and just one general comment, and that's really important, because you hear a lot of stuff on the internet about how to become a millionaire. The 3 best way to get to $100,000 a month in services while working 4 hours a week. I mean, I hope you're not clicking on those links and falling for those clickbaits. There are no shortcuts in business. It is hard work, especially if you want to grow the business. If you're serious about building and growing a business, no shortcuts. You gotta put the blood, sweat, and tears into it. It doesn't mean you don't have a life. It doesn't mean that everything else has to suffer. But it's a big commitment, and it's doable. A lot of people before us have done it. I'm fortunate to have now I'm on my 7th venture and have a lot of ups and downs. But there is light at the end of the tunnel if you put the time. So part of what I want to do today is go over this simplified approach. But again, as I said, no one can guarantee success. We want to maximize our chances of succeeding. We want to follow common and essential business principles. Those are the things that would increase our chances of succeeding. And you and I, we all know people who have tried and did well. Those who have gave it their best and they've come on top in terms of building a business, growing a business, become a millionaire. They built a legacy. And those who also have tried hard and outside of their control, there were factors where they just did not do well, maybe in their first initiative or their first venture, and then later they ended up succeeding. So the one thing that we do on this channel is I provide practical and honest advice. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to tell you it's easy. I'm not going to tell you it's impossible. I want to simplify it for you. I want to make it easier for you to learn from my mistakes and the mistakes of others. But once you establish this system of assessing what you do weekly, monthly, yearly, you reflect on that, you analyze, and then you'll learn from your own mistakes and you'll learn from your successes. Once you have that system baked into your processes, into your venture, into the way you when you hire people and you coach them to do the same, I think you are on your way to succeeding, and you're on your way to learn and to do well. So with that in mind, you might be thinking, what about these different frameworks for planning? There are things called OKRs, the objectives and key results. There's the SWOT analysis. There's the noise analysis. There's so many of them. I would say, as you're starting, follow a simplified approach. You can follow what I'm sharing with you today, and next week, follow others, those who have been to where you want to go. That's my only recommendation, is don't take advice from just anyone. Those who have been to where you want to go are people who can show you, probably give you a very, very practical examples. But these other frameworks like the OKRs, which I've used and we use today with Startup with Ferris, I've used in every company that I founded and I was part of. I think those are good when you grow the team. When you start to have a lot of people, maybe 10, 15 people plus, start using one of those established frameworks and stick to it. Don't be changing from one framework to another every other quarter. So that's my recommendation in terms of the question that comes up every once in a while, like which framework should I do? Which framework is better? Pick one and use it. But for now, I think I can follow a simplified approach. So we'll be assessing last year, reflecting on last year. Did we stay true to our plans? Did we identify the gaps? And then from that, we prepare for next year. So let's jump right in. The first one is, let me make sure here we've got the slides going. Good, we've got, all right. Revenue. Revenue is probably the easiest thing to measure. It's a very important metric. Eric Schmidt, the previous I think chairman of, or maybe he's still currently the chairman of Google, but he came and helped the two Google co-founders grow Google significantly. He is famously known to have said, "Revenue solve all known problems." No one can game this number. So I want you to look at that number for this past year and see, did I meet the target or did I not? So when you plan for this year, for last year, let's say you said, my goal was to get $200,000 in revenue. Did you meet it or not? It's a very simple question. Now, if you cannot answer this question easily and that number is not at your fingertips, then you gotta work with a bookkeeper. And you can watch our playlist on accounting, and my sincere advice to not do accounting on your own, but to work with a professional. But that number, you should be able to know the revenue number very quickly. And once you have it, again, look at what is it that I plan to do and what was actual. So if you met your target, because a lot of times when we're reflecting, when we're assessing, when we're planning for next year, we're thinking about like what went bad and what didn't work. And yes, that's important. We learn from that. But what's as important is to also acknowledge, recognize, celebrate the successes and learn from those as well and repeat them and amplify them. So if you've met your revenue target, right, that's great. Congrats. Now ask yourself, part of that reflection, what has led to it? For example, did you have a partnership that was an amazing source of leads for you? Let's say a technology or a product partner who doesn't offer professional services in terms of planning, implementation, training, ongoing support and maintenance. There are huge opportunities out there in terms of, if you're looking for a business idea, there's so many technology and product vendors that they just don't want to get into the services business. They want to focus on their products. And whatever your sector you're in, it could be an accounting software, it could be a financial planning software, it could be some sort of communication and coaching platform, it could be an HR performance evaluation system, you name it. It could be in marketing. There are a lot of marketing tools where you have product companies focus on enhancing the products and adding features to it, but these companies don't offer any consulting or any services, any professional services. So these are opportunities. I know this is sort of off script here, but it is important as you're planning for next year and as you're planning for revenue, look out for these opportunities. So if you were fortunate enough to have one of those partners, technology partners, product partners in your business last year, and that generated a lot of leads for you, and you didn't have to do a whole lot of networking or a whole lot of paid ads, I mean, that's amazing. So recognize where that revenue, what contributed to you reaching that revenue goal. Another thing could be that you just didn't know it, but you're an amazing networker. You go to these networking events, you go to these conferences, you go to these exhibit halls, and you just own the floor. You just network, you just go from one person to another. They love you. They talk to you. They give you their business information. You follow up, and you're just getting a whole lot of leads through networking. So that's good to recognize. Maybe another reason why you reached your goal is that for the last 10 months, you've worked 7 days a week. And you got to recognize that. And is that sustainable for you? Are you going to burn out? Is the family okay with it? Or maybe you're just, is the best time of your life because you don't have a whole lot of maybe social obligations or personal obligations, and you're just committed to building a very strong foundation for the business. So again, so many different scenarios that could have led to reaching your target. Recognize those scenarios, be aware of them, so that, again, when we talk about preparing for next year, are those sustainable? This partner that I had, are they going to renew their partnership with me next year? And they'll continue to funnel leads my way. So keep that in mind. Also, it could be that you've hired someone and you've done your vetting, and they were a top performer. And by the way, we have a live stream on hiring. We have a video on hiring your first salesperson. I believe we're dropping that this week or next week. So subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on these videos that we're dropping. But let's say you hired a top performer, you watched our live stream and you went through all these best practices, and you got this top salesperson who was just crushing it. So, and you were focused on what you loved most, and that was delivery. Or maybe on the other side, maybe you're just an amazing networker or a salesperson, and you found this very, very productive and effective implementation consultant or project manager, and they took care of the delivery. So assess what led to your success. That's really important. Now, if you did not meet your target, remember what we said, our revenue target was $200,000. Let's say you came short. So what led to that? Was it marketing? I wasn't getting leads. Was it sales? I couldn't close these leads. I couldn't nurture these leads. Was it I worked 30 hours a week because I thought having my own business, I'm the CEO now, I'm the boss, I can go to work whenever I want. I don't have to respond to the proposal right away. I don't have to follow up, excuse me, with those people that we've met at the networking event and they all wanted my service, or maybe a number of reasons. So you have to be honest with yourself, especially when you're just starting, or if you have maybe just a couple of employees, or maybe just freelancers. You have to really assess what led to you missing the target. Maybe the sales cycle was much longer than you thought. You thought, I can close a deal in 3 weeks. Now it's taking you 3 months. Again, and also if you're struggling with sales cycles and sales funnels, we do have this video. It's titled The Ultimate Guide to Sales Funnels for Consulting and Services Business. So check it out. We'll add a link in the description. But assess, why is it that you missed that target? And you have to dig deeper, and you have to ask why, and then why, and then why, and be objective and be honest with yourself. And always when things, as Jim Collins said in his book, not Built to Last, the first one, Good to Great, right? The first book, I believe. He said, when things go well, look at the window. So contribute success to your teammates, to your partners, to others. And when things go bad, look into the mirror. Look at yourself. So when things go bad, you have, again, it's not about self-flagellation and endless rumination, but it's about assessing what happened so we can fix it, we can improve on it. So let's see if we have questions here. We do have. Do you recommend working 7 days a week if you have a new business? Well, I just mentioned that earlier. So I'm not recommending you work 6 days a week or 7 days a week. All I'm saying is there comes a time where you got to give your business all you have. And if you're not ready and you're not able for many reasons. It could be financial, it could be other obligations. As I said, aging parents, you have a new baby, you have a new relationship, you're moving, bunch of stuff. You don't have that financial runway. You don't know anything about business. You want to learn a lot before you start. I mean, if those scenarios are, maybe you're just not ready and you're not able yet. But if you are serious about starting a business and you're doing your due diligence and you vetted the idea and you checked out the competition and you believe you have something unique to offer and it's differentiated, at that point, my friend, it's all about putting the time, your head down and just executing. So it's definitely this path of entrepreneurship. It's not a 40-hour-a-week path. In a video we released a few weeks ago, it's 40 hours a week is not for founders. So don't take it hard on yourself. If you cannot commit a lot of hours, maybe this is not the time to start a business. Or maybe you say in 6 months, I'm going to clear these obstacles. I'm going to get myself ready to commit the time. So I'm not going to say work 7 days a week. All I'm saying is this new business is like planting a tree, is like a new baby. It needs a lot of nurturing. There are a lot of external things that will go against you. There are a lot of external factors you don't have control over. There are a lot of unknowns and unknowns. So things will hit you from all directions when you start a business. Again, it's not impossible. You can do it. I've done it, and I had zero background in sales or starting my own business. And I know many others who have. So I would say just get into that mindset of putting a lot of time and energy into it while you still take care of yourself, while you still take care of other obligations you have. So maybe leisure time is going to suffer, but that's okay because you're building something amazing and awesome. And once you make it, whatever make it is for you, then you'll have the luxury of maybe not working as hard or taking more vacation or buying the car that you want to buy or whatever the case might be. So no direct answer to this, but it's not 40 hours a week. It's probably closer to 60 hours a week if you ask me for a specific number. But thank you for the question. So now, again, we talked about our revenue target of $200,000 and whether we met it or we did not meet that target. So now as we prepare for next year, kind of following the same line of thought here, is we look at it. I want to look at it both ways. I met and exceeded my targets. So what do I do? How do I prepare for next year? Maybe you grew that partnership that I mentioned earlier, where the leads were flowing your way. Invest everything you have in that partnership. If this partner, and I speak from experience, we had Google, we were a certified Google partner throughout different companies. At one company, when we were selling search engine optimization and pay-per-click paid search services, we were a Google partner there. And later, when we specialized, we pivoted and had another rebranded and had another company at the time and focused on analytics. We ended up becoming a top analytics provider. We were one of the top 3 or 4 global providers in Google Analytics. I'm telling you, the more we invested in that relationship, the more the return on investment. And I mean, genuinely, we would attend the events that Google would offer. We would promote the products. We would obviously provide good guidance to our clients on what the product does. We would provide case studies. We would provide success stories. We would bring our clients to Google so Google can hear from the clients about maybe missing aspects of the product that needed enhancement. So we committed fully to that relationship, and it paid off handsomely. And we had other it wasn't Google. We had other partners where there were services, actually. There were services partners, not product partners, where they specialized in an adjacent field. We would pass leads to them in areas that we did not cover, and then they would pass leads to us in analytics. So if that partnership was a key reason for you to to succeed and make your hit your targets, invest in that partnership. And if you want to grow, say 20-30% this year, maybe there are other partnerships that you can also find. Also, look at clients. So when you assess your clients, maybe a lot of their revenue came from a few clients because you just did amazingly well. You impressed them, you delighted them, you addressed their pain points. So if you understand your clients, and we'll talk about this more next week, but from a revenue perspective, categorize your revenue by maybe the type of client and where the good chunk of the client came from, and see, because something is working when you get a lot of revenue and the clients are happy from maybe one service you offer or in a specific sector. You want to build on that. And we do have, especially if you're thinking about growth and increasing your revenue, which you should be every year. Again, if the mindset, the context here is that you want to build and grow your business to 7 or 8 figures, this is what I focus on. We can also think about how to increase my revenue, not just meet my target, because there's inflation. You're going to lose some clients, attrition, what have you, churn. So think of, we have an article that we'll be launching in the next few days or next week on how to increase revenue for services business. So check out that article, and we'll do a few videos and a live stream on this in next year. So again, make sure you subscribe so you get notification when these videos and the article is available. And while I mentioned the article, we do have the Daily Advisor, our newsletter dedicated to founders and aspiring founders, again, who want to build and grow that business. So make sure you sign up. You can go on Startup with Feras, and Feras is spelled with F-E-R-A-S for those of you listening, and sign up for the Daily Advisor. Enough on that. Let's go now to the second part of it. And what happened? How do I prepare for next year if I didn't meet my target this past year? So, and I've prepared some slides for you. So, to give you an idea, of how you want to look at the business. And you want to think about it: were there no leads? Were they not converting? The sales cycle was longer, as I said earlier. But you want to really break it down. And the slides I have will help you address that. But let me see. I think we have a comment. Can you put the link, Khalid? Thank you so much for dialing in. Appreciate it. Khalid is a good friend and an industry partner. Talking about partners in the days of analytics, which we don't sell today. We're focused on helping you entrepreneurs to grow the business. Khalid has a company. They specialize in a CRO, in conversion rate optimization. So you've heard the word A/B testing. So those of you out there who have a need for that, follow up with Khalid. He and his wife, business partners, and they do amazing work in that field. So thank you for dialing in, Khalid. So, and I don't get any commission of any of this stuff. I'm just passing on the good word about a good partner of ours here in a previous life. So we will put all the links in the comments for sure. And if you're on LinkedIn, I think the links don't go automatically into LinkedIn. So if we don't add them right now during the live stream, we'll add them later. So again, assessing what led to you not meeting the target. So let's go into the slides. And as you see, maybe we just make the slides a bit larger. Yeah, maybe just make it full screen here. Let me see if I can do that. So let's say the annual revenue, your target is $200,000. And this could be your monthly target, depending on the businesses on the services you offer. It could be your quarterly, it could be your annual. I'm just using this annual, the context of annual planning. So you want to get $200,000 a year. So, and let's say we're going to make some assumptions. Your services, let's say you sell your service at $10,000. Okay, so annual revenue at $200,000. The service is at $10,000. It means that you need 20 clients. And let's see here, the slides here, moving the slides. There might be a delay. So to get to $200,000, if you sell the service at $10,000, you need 20 clients. Now, you're going to make another assumption is that for me to get 20 clients, I need to have 100 leads. So for every, so your lead to client conversion rate is 20%, meaning if you get 5 leads, you're going to close 1 of them. Okay, so these are some assumptions that you started the year with. Okay, now if you've been in business for a few years, you'll have real data. You'll have you can maybe segment this table. You have 2-3 different tables depending on maybe the 2-3 different services that you have, or maybe the different size of clients or the size of the deal. So I'm giving I would say a simplified version here, but you can customize this for your purposes. And if you need a copy of the spreadsheet behind this, we can definitely make that available to you. But let's say these are the assumptions: $200,000 in revenue. You sell your services at $10,000, so you need 20 clients to get to that number. Okay, and you need 100 leads to get the 20 clients. So now we look at the actual, and as we said earlier, the assumption is we came short. We came at $100,000. So what I want you to do is to start analyzing what led to this significant miss. All right, so we'll go to the next slide. I'll go through several scenarios. So scenario 1, as you see here, is we still sold the service at $10,000. So green is good, red is bad. But as you see on the screen, we only had 10 clients. So you sold the service at $10,000. That's great, but you only had 10 clients. So 10 clients times $10,000, that's $100,000 in revenue. So remember what I said about digging deeper, asking why. So there are a couple of scenarios here, scenario 1A and scenario 1B. So scenario 1A is of those 10 clients, what happened is I only had 50 leads. So if you only had 50 leads and you're still closing, for every 5 leads, you're closing 1 client. So the same conversion rate, you're closing at 20%. So the issue here is that you did not get enough leads. So it's a marketing issue. So you got to fix marketing. So you're selling at $10,000 a pop. That's great. But you only had 10 customers because you only had 50 leads. So the action item, the preparation for next year, is to look at how do I fix marketing? How do I improve marketing to get more qualified leads? So that's one scenario, scenario 1A. Let's go into scenario 1B. In this case, again, we had 10 clients. We did get 100 leads. So what happened? Well, it looks like we only converted 10 clients out of the 100 leads. In this case, most likely, there are a lot of nuances here, but I'm trying to keep it simple. Most likely, if you only closed 1 out of 10 instead of 2 out of 10, or instead of 1 out of 5, then obviously your revenue is going to suffer. So in this case, there's an issue in sales. You got to fix sales. So potentially, maybe you're struggling with nurturing the leads. Maybe you're just overwhelmed with all the leads and you're not sure how to nurture them. Or maybe you don't have the marketing assets, the case studies, or the demos, or you're just struggling in closing. You're struggling with negotiating and closing deals. And as I said earlier, we have the ultimate guide to sales funnels. We cover all of that on how to nurture the leads and how to move them from one stage to another. And we do have several videos around demos and presentation and improving your pitches. So and again, those are all, we'll put the links in the description as well. But for this scenario 1B, the issue is you could not convert these leads into customers. Potentially, it could be that the 100 leads you're getting, they're not qualified leads. So if someone said hi to you, it sounds like you have an amazing business, that's not a qualified lead. You have to do some vetting. You have to, and again, you set up systems in your business, and we talk a lot about processes and systems, because if you want to scale the business, if you want to grow the business to 7 or 8 figures, You can't have all the information here. Trust me, I did that for many years. I have the headaches and the scars from that. If you don't put it on paper, you set up processes and systems, you're not going to be able to hire people and help them, offload some of your tasks so they can help you grow the business. So again, in this case, it could be that you don't have a systems and processes in place to convert these leads into customers, or maybe the leads are not qualified. So you have to have some vetting, a vetting mechanism to make sure these are qualified leads. Okay, so that was the first scenario. Let's go into a couple more scenarios. If you look at, and let's blow up this slide here. If you look at scenario number 2, we had 100 leads. You see all the green, it's good stuff. We had 20 clients, but the red here in this case is the price. We sold the service at $5,000. $5,000 for a new business might be amazing, but hey, your target was to sell the service at $10,000. So the issue here is marketing is not a problem. You're getting the leads. You're closing these leads, but you can't sell at your target level. Many factors could be at play here. It could be that the competition is very fierce and you underestimated your ability to sell at what the competition is doing. So you have to lower your prices to win deals. That could be one scenario, or one situation. Another situation is, it could be that the way you're positioning yourself and your services, again, especially if you're just starting, or maybe it's just starting in a new market or starting in a new vertical, you're not maybe confident enough, and that's showing. And maybe you don't have all the certifications yet. Maybe you don't have all the logos to go to the next client and show them the amazing work you've done for all these amazing past clients. So whatever the case might be, you have to, again, ask why and drill down to figure out why is it you were selling at 5,000, not at 10,000. Let's look at the last scenario number 3. Everything is, excuse me, sorry about that. Everything here is green. What the heck happened? Well, it could be that marketing was amazing. We've got the 100 leads, sales top notch. We closed all these leads, 20 of them at $10,000 a pop, but delivery sucked. People, your clients or some of your clients, were not satisfied. They're happy, they canceled their contracts. You lost that revenue that you actually earned, or you got the contract for. So I've seen this. It happened. All of these scenarios and many others I've lived through. I've seen it, and I wanna help you avoid. That's why we started this channel. That's why we have Startup with Ferris, is to help you avoid the mistakes that we've done and other people I talk to. I talk to 1 or 2 founders almost every week, and I'm sharing this with you so you avoid these mistakes. So in this case, examine your delivery. Maybe you're just amazing at sales and need someone to help you deliver and project manage. Many other reasons. So of all of these scenarios, I'm thinking here in a linear fashion, just to make the example clear and for learning purposes. But there could be a number of factors at play. Life and business. Business is not linear. Life is not linear. But you get the idea. And there could be a lot of factors here. But do that digging. Assess why you missed that target, and then start doing things as part of the preparation for next year. Don't wait till the end of the year to make this assessment. I'd recommend, and I learned this from one of my colleagues we hired as a director of consulting at the time in one of the businesses. And after every project, after actually every first delivery of a project, he would sit down with the team, the project team, and assess what went well, what did not go well. And I also learned another tip from another person is on sales, is that after every sales pitch, sit down and assess what happened. Now, when you have maybe a salesperson or you have someone with you, you can sit down and discuss this with them. It's easier. But initially, if you're just starting, it's just going to be you. So do sit down on driving back or after the Zoom call or at night on the weekend, sit down and look at this past week. I had 3 pitches. I only closed 1. What happened? So after every pitch, sit down and document what you thought went well and what you thought did not go well, and improve on it for the next pitch. So this way, you're not waiting for the end of the month, the end of the quarter, the end of the year to improve things, especially when you're on around sales and delivery. Like, these things are happening every week, every month. So learn from the project, learn from the pitch, learn from that marketing campaign, and apply to the next initiative. So, and if something big happened, like something major, like you lost a major client, a very serious and thorough root cause assessment should take place. And the one thing that I learned way back then, early in my career, I had an amazing boss, John, in Florida, and he said, you got to ask why. You got to keep asking why. Keep asking why till you get to the bottom of what happened. And again, if you have team members, it's not about blaming who did what. You want to be, another business principle here, hard on the issue, easy on people, hard on the, soft, easy on people, hard on the issue. So keep digging until you find the root cause of the issue and fix it, so that you don't do the same mistake again. You'll do other mistakes, we all do, but not that same mistake. All right, so that covers it in terms of revenue. And to summarize, revenue should be really easy to measure, and basically, did you meet that target or no? And then if you met it, learn from that success and figure out how to improve it, how to grow in your revenue. And then if you did not meet your target, we went over a number of approaches to assess what happened. All right, let's see if we have another question. We do have, yes, and this came from a comment on YouTube on a recent short we had from Ken Kill. He said, what is the best way to navigate through a recession for small businesses, and especially when starting out? So, good question. Thank you again for the comment. He had a very nice comment on YouTube. We appreciate it. If you're watching now, or if you're listening to this later, I don't know what business you're in. I don't know. You said you're just starting out. So in a recession, I'm not an economist, but I read, typically certain industries are impacted more than others. So, for example, luxury goods, hospitality, sometimes car sales, certain things of those type. People they want to preserve cash flow. Now, other businesses are not impacted, or maybe not impacted as heavily. Healthcare, education, things that maybe staples, essential goods. Sometimes in a recession, people want to go back to school, get certifications, so training, education, things around like repairing, maintenance, debt collection booms in recession. Counseling, people need help. So depending on the service you're in, a recession might be horrible, terrible for many of us. It might be actually an opportunity for you to grow the business. So that's something to think about. I would say solid business practices will help you weather storms better. So cash is king. So cash flow management and having cash preserving cash is really important. So initially, since you said you're starting out, if it's only you spend, let's say you had a budget of spending $2,000 on marketing, and the recession is looming and things are just not looking good, maybe you preserve that cash because you want to sustain yourself and maybe your family, and maybe you have you don't want to lay them off. So maybe you switch from doing paid marketing, take those $2,000 or $3,000 a month, and do guerrilla marketing, where that's where you put the time. And that goes back into maybe those will be the nights or the weekend where you're just doing a lot of marketing efforts, a lot of marketing activities that don't cost you money, but they cost you your time and your creativity. And we have some videos in our marketing playlist on guerrilla marketing. So those are some things that you can do, I think, in terms of around if there's a recession. And I would say a lot of them are just good business practices. They might be more highlighted, more prominent during a recession. Another thing, maybe just a couple more things here, is you can also negotiate better terms with your vendors and with your clients. This will help you with cash flow. So, for example, with your vendors, always pay your vendors. I think I forgot who said this, but basically, who was it? The founder of Virgin Atlantic, Sir. Oh my God, his name is escaping me now. Oh my God, it'll come in a second. He says he was always late on. He didn't have money in his first business. He no money, no cash. He said, I always paid my vendors late, but I always paid them eventually. So if you're struggling with cash, you have to maintain, if you have to maintain your cash flow. So potentially negotiate with your vendors where you pay them net 60, like in 60 days or in 90 days. And with your customers, negotiate where you can get net 10 or net 15 or net 30. You get paid like in 10 days or 15 days or 30 days. So you can learn a lot of that. And we'll have maybe a video on this in the future. And last but not least, is you can definitely diversify your revenue stream. So if you have one service that's going to be hit and impacted heavily by a recession or by an economic downturn, maybe there's an adjacent service you can pivot to, or maybe that could be maybe like if this service was 80% of your revenue and now it's going to be 20% of your revenue, maybe you find another service that you can promote. So those are some ideas to help you navigate difficult economic times. And let me know again. Let me know if you have a specific scenario that I did not cover. Good. Let's see. I believe we are good for now. So let's go into the second aspect of reflecting and planning. And we said revenue, risk, and strengths and weaknesses. That's what we're covering today. So in terms of risk, and why did we include this today? It is, I think it's, people don't talk about it as much. I'm not asking you to be reckless here, but risk is inherent to business. High risk is inherent to new businesses. But at the same time, the higher the risk, the higher the potential reward. So risk is like the bedrock of business. You can't grow the business. You can't start a business if you're not willing to take some risk. So I'm all for planning. Obviously, we're talking about business planning. We have a playlist on business planning. Check it out as well. So planning is key, but at one point you have to take that first step. At one point, you have to take some risk. So part of that reflection is take a look at last year. Did I take any risk? How did I do with the risks I took? Were they reckless and I lost my shirt, or were they calculated? And then we'll walk through some examples to help you answer these questions. But if you're expecting to get into business and to be envision yourself as this amazing CEO, or becoming a millionaire, or leaving a legacy without taking risk, it's just not going to happen. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. So when we talk about risk, think of what you do outside of business. Because in one of the books I read a couple of years ago, it was called Invent and Wonder, and it was about the writings of Jeff Bezos up to that point. It talked about inventors. And I think a lot of this also applies to founders and new business owners, because you're inventing new ways to deal with challenges that you've never met. So that book, it said that part part of the inventors is that you have this sense of curiosity. You're kind of checking out how things work in life in other systems. And the other thing that I learned from that book is that these great inventors, they also mastered and they borrowed from other systems. So when we're talking about risk in business, look at how you take risk in other aspects of your life. So if you, for example, let's say you wanted to parachute. Um, um, I've done it when I was young. I don't know if I'll do it again now, but um, it was scary. It was, time maybe about fear, but there's risk involved in that, and maybe that's literally a big jump for you. But if you're taking risk in other part of your life, that would be applicable to business as well, because you're building this risk muscle. So examine other aspects of your life and see if you're taking risks at all. If you're not taking any risk in anything you're doing, you got to do something about it. You're not going to take $200,000 of your savings and start a business if you're not taking smaller steps in the risk. All right. So potentially you can still have your job, your full-time job, and start learning about business on the side. Start freelancing on the side. Do obviously make sure you're meeting the obligations with your employer and you're doing amazingly well there. But if your plan is to start a business in 6 months, start taking small steps and take some calculated risk where the implications are not severe and significant. So I'll give you an example, 2 examples. But before the example, so for this past year, again, take a look at what risk you took, what risk maybe you should have taken and you didn't take, and maybe you lost some opportunities. Did you invest time and money in a person, in a new hire? That's a risk. There's always risk when you hire people. Did you invest the time in a course and you ended up learning a lot from? It took time from your business, time maybe from your family, but you learned a lot from and you implemented that learning in your business. Maybe you've never done any paid marketing, or maybe you've never done search engine optimization on your website and you worked with an agency that helped you, or maybe you learned that on your own. So measure these new things that you've done, that you did last year that you haven't done before, and see how you dealt with them and how what went well, what didn't, and build on it for next year as we talk about reflecting. So an example that a risk I took, and again, there's so many examples out there of, you hear the big stories of these amazing people, very highly successful people who left their day job and started a business. Mark Zuckerberg, he left Harvard and started Facebook. We know how that panned out. Jeff Bezos, he had a very lucrative job as an investment banking, I believe. And he left that to start Amazon. We also know how that panned out. So these are the stories, you hear them. Those are not overnight successes. They put a lot of time and energy and effort to get to where they are today. So for me, as an example, I remember I was working in technical. I had an electrical engineering degree, and I was a hardware design engineer for a number of years before I moved to the dark side, to business and marketing. And I was doing okay, but I just wasn't enjoying this. And this was many years ago, over 25 years ago. And the environment, the business environment, it wasn't that great, and people were fired, and it wasn't a very healthy environment at the time. And I wanted to move to closer to sales and marketing, to project management. So I wanted to ask someone. I don't want to ask my manager. I figured I'll just go to the top. I'll ask the CEO. So there's a lot of, I had a wife and I think 2 kids at the time. We didn't have our 3rd child at the time. So I thought if I go and ask, I could get fired, because I've known people who got fired for doing, not for lesser sort of issues, or just because the company thought they were not productive, or they were not doing their job. So it took me, I don't know, a few weeks to muster enough courage and go and ask the CEO. I was I was shaking on the inside. I didn't show it. And he said yes. And he said yes. Make sure you finish the current project you're working on, and then we can gradually move you into under sales and project management. It was a risk I took, but it I think it had a significant impact, positive impact on my career. I loved what I started to do next, and I started to put more time and effort into it, and that led to a number of promotions, and then became a director, and then ended up being relocated to the West Coast and Silicon Valley, and all the great things that had happened since. So again, that initial risk was really hard for me to take, but it was worth it. So again, as you reflect on what you did last year, let's now, what is it that we do to prepare for next year? I think look at hiring, for example. Maybe you don't want to take that risk of hiring a seasoned salesperson right away, especially if cash is tight. So you hire an intern or maybe a junior salesperson, and then the revenue is not going to be there right away, because a junior person or an intern, they're not going to help you get revenue right away. So there are trade-offs. But you'll learn hiring. You'll learn how to work with someone that you haven't managed someone before. So you can don't take that big jump and hiring a top performer who maybe costs you 6 digits initially. That's one idea. Another thing, in terms of maybe looking at getting into, you're done well in one vertical, you've done well maybe with a certain client size, you start maybe going into something you're uncomfortable with, pitching to bigger clients. I know when we started, when we started, we had a business overseas, and we're expanding that business to the US. Overseas, out of Dubai, we're working with top tier clients, top banks, top airlines, top government agencies, and we've been in that business for a long time. Now moving to the new market, we can't just go and pitch to these large clients right away. At least that's our plan. So we're going after the mid market. So there's less risk involved. So we establish our presence in the mid market, and then we can go back and pitch to the larger clients. So again, look at things you can do, and take some of those, that calculation, like what is the impact of that decision? What is it that what's the worst case scenario? If I can live with the worst case scenario, then I can only move up from there. Another example, also another story here on taking risk, is on the financial side of things. Your business is going to require cash. If you need, even if you're doing things like counseling, what's a lot of it is your expertise and what you've learned, and maybe some tools, and maybe some online assessment tools. Even if you don't have equipment for you to deliver your services, you still need, there's some expenses, legal expenses, some marketing expenses, your laptop, what have you, maybe office space. So you need some money. So in terms of funding the business, and if you don't have access to cash or investors, and you don't want to take a loan, you tap into your savings. So make sure your life partner is on board with these types of decisions, right? You don't want to make that decision and have a miserable night at home every time you've done with work. So those are things you can take into consideration. Maybe you think you can impress clients more if you have an office and they come and visit you in the office, and so you want to take a risk of, instead of taking a 12-month contract on the 13th floor in downtown, maybe a more modest office where you can, now you're adding to your expenses. You have rental, right? You have rent that you have to pay, but instead of the rent being maybe $3,000 a month, maybe you start with something smaller. Maybe you do like a WeWork or something like that. So again, you can take some smaller risk, see how you're managing, and then take some bigger risk. Other things you can do in terms of just being prepared to take these risks, I think talk to other people who are in a similar business or in your sector, and see how they've managed these risks before. I mean, some things will be unknown, some things will just hit you and you've never, you did not expect them to hit you. Who thought we'd have COVID hit us that hard, and then that we couldn't sell or do anything for a number of months, or you couldn't, especially if you had a service where you need to meet people in person. If you're a personal coach, for example, maybe Zoom wasn't a thing for you at the time. So those things will be out of our control. But for the most part, there are things that you can plan for. You can talk to other business owners. You can talk to people in your sector. You can obviously do a lot of research online. But I would say make sure you start understanding what's involved, and I would say the one thing to test is like, what is the worst case scenario? I go to a new vertical, and I go to a networking event, and I do my legwork and my homework, and I study about this sector, and I go there so I can speak intelligently. Like, what's the worst case scenario? People are going to think that you don't know what you're talking about. Okay, you go to another event next year or next week or next month, or you can go and maybe try a different sector. So that all of those activities that are going to make you uncomfortable, those will help you build the sales muscle. So let's see if we have some questions here. Do you think that remote work can help mitigate risk in terms of office expenses? Yes, definite yes. From experience, and this is way before COVID and before remote work, I remember in one of the businesses, cash was tight. So I had a business partner. We worked either in his garage or my garage, the Silicon Valley thing. And then we started to get some business, and we got a shared space. The good thing is we did a month-to-month contract, so we can cancel on a month notice. I don't know what happened, but revenue was dry for right after we got in the office, like a month or two after that. Just no revenue for like 2 or 3 or 4 months. I forgot. It was pretty dry, and we thought we're on the cusp of growing, and we figured out how to sell and how to implement. It wasn't the case. So we ended up canceling that month to month. So that was the extent of it. A hit of 1 month, and then we went back and worked from the garage and the living room and all of that good stuff. Later, once we had a solid revenue stream, and we had actually a solid recurring revenue, and we were in a better position, so we moved to an office, and we actually negotiated a 24-month contract. We got a better deal. And actually, this is a side tip here. Side note is that if you're about to commit to an office space and commit to a long-term contract, understand again the implication of that decision financially, and also you can negotiate in different ways. What we negotiated at the time was, we don't want to pay $2,000 a month right off the bat. We said, how about we pay, I believe we went down 50%. So it was like, instead of $2,000 for 24 months, we went $1,000 at the beginning, and then it was $3,000 at the end, and sort of linearly increased. So it was an easier hit on the expenses for us. So think of ways to mitigate the risk by again checking around and asking. And what I did at the time, before we signed that contract, I went to a couple of friends who have businesses and they have offices, and I asked them for tips, and they offered that tip that helped our cash flow. So yes, I think it can help mitigate the risk. Now, if your business, business is an art, and there are all these nuances. So if your core business, your service depends on you being in person and being in an office where you have to meet someone, let's say in a conference room, or let's say it's coaching, and you can do it on Zoom, but it's not as effective. Or it's let's say like you're a management consultant, and you have to be like with your client on the whiteboard, then then it might be worth investing in that office. But again, mitigate that risk by doing maybe a month-to-month contract. It'll probably be more expensive, but that at least will get you going. Good question. And I believe we have another question here. Let me see. Excuse me. All right. How many? Sorry about that. How many people should I confer with when I'm making a business decision? How many people should I confer with when I'm making a business decision? All right. Well, if it's going to be, it depends. That's my standard answer as a consultant from the consulting days. It depends. I think you want to consult. You want to get input, definitely from stakeholders, and the more vested these stakeholders, the more input you want to get from them, and the more engaged you want them in that process. So anyone who's impacted by the decision, in my mind, you want them involved at certain level. And it's a balance between deciding and executing, implementing, going full speed, and obviously, endless cycles of debate and not really making a decision and losing opportunity. So if you're an early stage founder and you have people who have experience in that area where you're making a decision, consult with them for sure. And I would say, especially as it's related to risk taking, you have to build that muscle. And I think assess yourself. And we talk, this is a good lead into the next section about strengths and weaknesses. I think you should know yourself. If you're not, you can ask your best friends, you can ask your spouse, if you're employed, you can take a look at the last performance review, especially if you had a good manager who provided candid feedback about your areas of strengths and weaknesses. You'll learn from that. You'll learn from those people. So if you're the type that you just drag your feet before you make a decision, you definitely want to surround yourself with people who complement your skills or help you fill the gap for your weaknesses. So if you take forever to make a decision, you definitely want to consult with people who are more decisive. That will balance things out. Or I don't say if you're negligent, or like my personality, I'm just like, I just gotta go, and I want to just get stuff done. And when I did my strength finder, I think that one of the top strengths were achieving and learning, and this concept, I just got to get stuff done. And luckily, fortunately, throughout the different ventures, I don't know why, if it's good luck or good fortune or it's just how life works, but I've been surrounded with business partners, and I've always had business partners in all my ventures who are more deliberate in decision making, and who complement the way I go about doing things. And that's important. It could be annoying sometimes, especially if that you're the type of, I just got to get going and get things done, and people are slowing you down, but it could be the best advice they've given you. So long answer to this question, I would say, if you have business stakeholders, or if you have a decision involves tapping into your savings or impacting your life, for example, you will be spending 60 hours a week. So make sure people impacted by the decision are on board with this. They'll be more supportive. And then as you grow and as you have more senior people on your team, I think include them. Build consensus, get their input. You don't have to get their approval. Of course, you're the owner, you're the business owner, you're the CEO, you make the decision. But getting people on board it will make things easier when it comes to implementing those decisions. So I hope that helps. Moving on to the last section of this live stream, and it is about strengths and weaknesses. And if you're the positive thinking type, maybe you don't like the word weaknesses. Okay, areas for improvement. I'm not going to get into a debate on that. So whatever you like to call it. But the one quote I really liked from Susan Wojcicki, I hope I didn't butcher that name, amazing person, former CEO of YouTube, one of the early Googlers. She's done an amazing job at YouTube in over the years. I think it was 2014 through 2023, I believe. Yeah. So she said, "Don't be afraid to ask for help. No one succeeds alone." So I love the grit that founders have. I love I want to conquer the world. I can do the impossible. I love that in entrepreneurs and founders. At the same time, you don't want to overlook weaknesses and areas for improvement that you have. And you really, no one can do it alone, right? As the quote from Susan. So look for people who will support you and help you maximize your strength, and then also solve your weaknesses. Excuse me. So in terms of reflecting on last year and planning for next year, I think sometimes business owners, they really take it very hard on themselves, especially when things are not going well. And also seen folks who they blame everything on external factors. They never take responsibility for any actions. And yeah, it's the economy. Oh yeah, clients are difficult. So I think truth lies in between. So you have to recognize and celebrate your strength and the skills that you have and that you've built up over the years. And at the same time, you have to recognize and acknowledge the things that you struggle with. So, and the more honest, the more objective you are in this assessment, the stronger the foundation you'll have for your business. I think the stronger the person you will be. So think, for example, what were my strengths last year as a business owner? And again, if you have a few team members last year, you can do this exercise for the team. What is it that really stood out? Like, what was that common thing that most customers told me that I had? For example, for me personally, I'm obsessed with responsiveness. When in the services business we had, and it was in the DNA of the business, and clients could fault us for many things, but not on responsiveness. And I always I used to tell my team, and now I share this with founders, you want to differentiate your service. You want to differentiate how you show up. You want to differentiate, from your competition. So responsiveness is one thing that I think this is not going to cost you a lot of money, but it's more of a DNA. It's more something of a mindset. And even if you don't have the answer right away, you can say, I heard you, I got you, give me a day, give me a few hours, I'll get back to you. So that was something that I was hearing input from my customers. And again, we built on that, and we made it a key value in the business I was part of. So for yourself, again, see what is it that clients are telling you that you shine at, and jot that down. Also, if, for example, you're just struggling in persuading people just to buy from you, but you're doing just amazingly well in delivering the service. People come to you with certain pain points. They're let's say you're a financial planner, and people just not sure. They don't know anything about investment. Let's say you're working with some folks who are new to investment, and you make it easy for them. You explain all the financial jargon in an easy way to understand. So if you're getting that positive feedback from your clients, build on that. These are strengths. But if you're struggling, so if you're doing well in delivery, but you're struggling in sales, you got to do something about it. So maybe it's not an issue in terms of talking to people and convincing them, but maybe it's you don't have the certifications, you don't have the as a company or as a consultant, or you don't have the marketing material to support you, like assessing, maybe you just struggle with writing, and that's why you don't have any marketing material to show off all the great work that you do. So assess these areas of the strength of weaknesses of what happened last year, and then start going into, how do I build on that? How do I prepare for next year? And I'll give you some examples. Let me see. Do we have no, I don't think I have a question yet. Yeah. So if you if you just, like, this whole thing of marketing is new to you, my advice to founders is you have to learn every aspect of the business at one level. And we covered that in last week's live stream. We talked about the T-shaped consulting, T-shaped learning, or the V-shaped learning. So as a founder, you want to learn enough about every aspect of the business so that you can make the right decision, so you can discern if you have a right candidate or a right contractor, let's say, for marketing. So if you're so learning about marketing, the foundation of marketing, the 4 P's of marketing, what the target audience, like all of those are important for you as a business owner. But if you're just doing the actual implementing a marketing program is just not you, then that's a weakness. That's an area. That's a gap. So for preparing for next year would be, okay, I'm going to take 2 courses on marketing so I understand the key elements of marketing, the key components. I'm going to follow this channel on marketing. I'm going to follow this influencer on marketing, especially if they have experience and they talk about your services similar to yours and sectors similar to yours. So that would be your action item. That's how you prepare. And then with investing in learning about marketing, now you can go and make the right decision to hire the contractor or the freelancer or someone on Upwork or an agency, or someone seasoned who will take on this marketing department for you and just blow it up and get you a whole lot of leads. So that would be a very specific way, a very, I think, simple, but in a way foundational way of looking at every aspect of the business and prepare for it for next year. What is it that you want to do? And potentially then what is it that you can get additional resources in the areas where there are gaps? You can apply this to finance. You can apply this to sales. You can apply this to delivery. You must focus on your areas of strength and amplify those. And you must find ways to bridge the gaps, these areas of weaknesses, either by you learning those areas and becoming proficient at them, or bringing in some outside help. So one other thing before I have a nice, what I think is a nice table to show you to help you, a matrix. Before we go into that, and we're about to wrap up here. So if you have, again, if you joined late, we covered this simplified approach to planning, but reflecting on last year, assessing what happened, and then preparing for next year. We talked about revenue. We talked about if you met your revenue targets or if you didn't, and what you do in each case. And then we talked about risk and how you build that risk muscle, and start taking some small steps to improve, strengthen that muscle, and then you can't really start a business without taking some risk. And then now we're talking about strengths and weaknesses. And next week we'll be covering other aspects of business planning. So in terms of preparation for a couple of things here, in terms of preparing for next year, very practical steps. One is, in the next couple of weeks, put the phone away and go on a walk away from technology, and just think about the business. Think about the happy moments, the sad moments. Think about, you need time to reflect. You need time to process all of that. So that's number one. Number two, ask friends and colleagues. They'll be the best people to tell you about your strengths and weaknesses. Ask clients. Do surveys. You can ask clients right after you complete a project, or after a pitch, whether it went well or it didn't, ask clients for feedback. And then obviously you have some team members, make sure you have a process to collect their feedback, not just in terms of performance evaluation, but feedback to you and feedback about the business. So, and if you want to do a bit, I think take more steps toward it, you can take one of the assessments out there, like the Strength Finder one that I mentioned earlier, or the other famous one, the Myers-Briggs one, or one of those. I think don't take too many of them. I think that gets confusing. Just take one of those assessments. It'll be a signal, a probably a good and strong signal in terms of personal traits and what is it that you want to do to improve. So jot down, spend a week doing all these, like walk, away from technology, reflect on last year, envision what you want to do next year, ask friends, ask clients, ask partners, ask your employees, your even if you have contractors, then jot all that down, and it will be your plan for next year. So I want to show you a matrix here before we answer. We have a couple more questions and then wrap it up. If you look at this and maybe blow up the slide, you can look at on the columns here, things that you should do, you must do as a founder, as a business owner. And if you're not doing today, you should learn those. And then things you shouldn't be doing, you can outsource, you can have an intern, you can have a new hire to do it for you, or you can maybe get someone else to do it for you. And then in terms of the columns, if in case you're listening, you're not watching, I have this matrix here. You want to list the things that you're good at and things that you're not so good at, things you're bad at, right? So I'll give you some examples. In the context of sales, the things, let's say you're good at, let's just move to the next slide here. Let's say you're great at presenting and running demos. So continue to do that because you're good at it and it's needed to grow the business. Now, the thing that you shouldn't do, again, in the context of sales, let's say you can be pushy. So pushy selling is not going to be helpful. So you shouldn't do that. And you shouldn't hire someone to do pushy sales for you. So even if you can be pushy and follow up, I remember I had this one person, he was amazing at follow up, but it became annoying. They would just email, call, text, like, dude, I don't want to have a follow-up conversation now, right? So avoid being pushy. Now, on the other side, things that maybe you're bad at, you're just not, things that you just don't have experience in, or you just struggle with big time. Let's say negotiating. You're not good at negotiation. That one you should learn. It's core to business. And that's only going, as you grow the business, you have to negotiate larger contracts with bigger clients. So you want to invest the time in that part. Now, things that you're bad at, and again, I'm giving you an example. Eventually, you can hire someone who can sell and negotiate on your behalf. That's fine. But I'm just giving an example so you can apply this to your own circumstance. If you're not good at cold calling, and for the life of you, you can't do it, and you have some cash in this scenario, hire someone to do the cold calling, and then you go and do what you excel at. In this case, you can present, you can persuade them, and you can just impress the heck out of the lead with the knowledge you know about your subject matter and about your service. So use this matrix. I think take this and apply it to marketing, to operations, to delivery, to every aspect of the business, and identify the one or two things that you're good at and that you want to grow and amplify, and the things that you want to maybe outsource or have someone else do for you on your behalf. And before we go into the questions here, if you're listening and you happen to be someone who's thinking about starting a business, I think everything I covered today, most of what I covered today still applies to that planning process. So if you want to start a business and you start vetting the idea, but you haven't completed that vetting, then assess that. If you started to put a financial plan together and you haven't completed, then you haven't completed that planning, then do I know financial planning? If not, let's learn it, or maybe hire someone who can help you with it. So whether, again, you started a business and you don't have anyone, or whether you started a business and you have people with you, or you're thinking about starting a business, I believe that the simplified approach that will take some time from you, it still applies to these various scenarios. And I'd love, as we wrap it up here and answer the questions we received, I'd love to hear from you as you're planning for next year. What are the things that you're struggling with? What are the things that you just, you're hitting a wall, you're not sure what to do next? Leave me a comment, or go, if it's something maybe more personal, you can go to startupwithfares.com and submit the Ask Fares form. Again, more than happy to respond there. So let's see, we have a couple of questions and then we wrap it up. Should you do a strength weakness analysis to decide which type of business to go into to begin with? Short answer is yes. And I think it applies to product businesses, but definitely applies to services business and consulting businesses. I mean, a lot of what we do as business owners, as founders in services, it's a lot about people. It's a lot about, being able to, customer service and customer support. And let's say, for example, like one of your weaknesses is you haven't done sales ever in your life, and you're not the person, you're a subject matter expert let's say in data visualization, but you've never sold this, if you've never networked before. So going into a business without knowing that this is a gap for you, I mean, that could be detrimental. I mean, that I would not recommend you go into a business without doing this level of analysis. So definitely do this strength weakness analysis part of your business planning. So and the famous framework, the SWOT, the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, you can apply that. And they're newer frameworks, it doesn't matter, but definitely know what you can offer right off the bat, know what you're really good at, and learn and know what else you want to invest in, and be better at, and eventually master, or again outsource and have someone else do it for you. Good question. Let's see, I believe we have another question here. During the year, how much time should I spend on reflecting and additional planning and adjusting? I would say make it part of your DNA to do planning, reflecting, assessing, planning. It doesn't have to be thorough and exhaustive weekly or monthly, but I would say at least on a quarterly basis, you want to do you want to commit the time to see what happened last quarter, what you want to plan for the next quarter. So I would say, if you want to quantify it, it's going to depend on the size of business that you have. It's going to depend on how many clients you have. But I would say definitely more comprehensive planning at a quarterly cadence, and then definitely keep track of your quarterly goals and review these every couple of weeks. I use the OKR, the Objectives and Key Results framework, and we have all our objectives and then the supporting key results in a spreadsheet. And every couple of weeks, sometimes we're too busy, we might miss a week, but definitely we're looking at it at least once or twice during a month and tracking what is it we want to, what is it that we want to accomplish, and where is it that we're off, and maybe new things come up you want to add. So yeah, definitely I would say, like I said, quarterly, make it a block out a half a day or whatever it requires to do this comprehensive planning, and then do those check-ins during the month. And obviously the big one, I would say, that's annual planning. Planning will pay off big time. I think a lot of us, you don't want to be stuck in planning and not taking any action. I'm not suggesting that, but any time you put into planning will pay off handsomely. Good. I think that was our last question. So again, thank you for listening, for watching. Appreciate your feedback. Would love to get your feedback through comments here on YouTube or whichever platform you're watching or listening to this content. Leave us. We'd love if you hit the like button, share this video. It helps us. It gives us a signal that this is content is useful for our audience. And to summarize, we talked about reflecting and preparing revenue, risk, strengths and weaknesses. And next week we'll zoom in on clients, the marketplace, partners, and then some personal considerations. So join us. If you can't attend the live event, you can watch it on YouTube or the platform of your choice. And last reminder to sign up for the Daily Advisor, our newsletter that is dedicated to founders who want to build and grow 7 or 8 figure businesses in consulting and in the services business. So join that. Go to startupaffairs.com and click on sign up for the Daily Advisor. And see you next time.